All right, we now welcome on a special guest, Goose of the Goosepoop newsletter and Twitter page, which I personally am a huge fan of. He provides, he's got spreads, over and unders for high school games, weekly rankings, blogs, and a whole lot more. I mean, thanks for joining the show, man.
Hey guys, great to be here. Thanks for having
So
me.
the first thing I'll start off with, I mean, it's $1 million idea. It's something that I think everybody who follows high school sports at one time or another has always wondered, what would be a potential spread on this game? How did this whole website and newsletter and Twitter page, how did it even come about?
Yeah, so I was developing apps at work, and as I was getting better and better at it, I was like, well, I want to actually try to do something that I'm like just purely interested in.
Yeah.
And I had grown up reading Snooze to Use projections, and I knew at that time that MHSAA was going to be switching over to a new playoff point formula. And I said, what'd be great is if, and I was actually doing a spreadsheet on the side for my brother's senior year to kind of predict. This was back in 2020, the COVID year. And I was like, it'll be great is if I combine this spreadsheet where I'm the one, I'm picking who's going to win what game, and just gave that to everybody. And then took that and layered it on what Snooze was doing with maps and said, let's just push an app out to everybody and let them forecast who their team's going to play, basically. Yeah. And so that was the original idea. And in doing that, making that app, you realized, okay, well, you've got to forecast every single game in the state when you're gonna, if you want to do that app correctly. Right. And so I started like, okay, what's the best way to forecast games? And as I was doing that, my first methodology, and actually what's still in the app, what I call the playoff wizard, is just pick the team with the better record. Basically, it's a little more complicated, but that's what it is. And so I did that, and then as I was reading about ways to forecast games, I started to come across, oh wow, there's actually some mathematical concepts developed by people like you've heard of like Massey ratings or other like the computer systems they used to use in the BCS for college football. And there's ways that you can set lines on games using just math that are fairly accurate. And so I did a lot of research this last summer and developed the math behind, okay, well, this is how we're going to set lines for every game. And that's once I had a reasonable degree of confidence in the accuracy, I said everybody's going to be interested in these, or I had a strong hunch, and so I just started publishing them.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I didn't hear about it until somebody at work mentioned your page to me, and I can't believe I hadn't found it earlier. I mean, it's awesome. I love the weekly rankings you do. And the thing that's kind of blew me away, I was just looking at your page earlier today. It says you did 1,368 games and you predicted the winner 83% of the time. I mean, that's crazy. Without maybe going too much into the weeds of how you kind of developed this formula, what is there a basic way you could explain it to us? Like we were like maybe first graders or something like that?
Yeah, the basic way is, if you have three teams and team A beats team B by 3, and then team B beats team C by 5, team A is 8 points better than team C. Now it gets complicated because you have large degrees of like randomness where maybe team A underperforms a night and team B overperforms a night. And so basically what it does is it takes a long average of every team like that, basically. And it does the full daisy chain. So it's not looking at just your opponents or your opponent's opponents. It's actually looking at your opponent's and just keep iterating out into the network.
Because we all know there's outlier games where a team just doesn't perform, or they blow up and score 95 points or something crazy that happens. So I've got 2 questions.
Yep.
Elephant in the room. Where does Goosepoop come from?
Yeah.
If you can tell us, or is it like a secret?
Question. No. Goosepoop. So like I grew up the son of a high school football coach, so he was, kind of gave me the love of prep sports, and his nickname for me growing up was Goose, because I would chase or Goosepoop. Sometimes he would call me. So, it was my dad's nickname for me as a kid. Yeah. And when first app I ever made, I was like, I don't really know what to call this, so let's just call it Goosepoop.
Call it Goosepoop. All right, cool. Well, that makes sense. I mean, so it wasn't anything deep. It was just a nickname you had growing up. So that works. Second question. So you're obviously an app developer. So, I mean, maybe that's a background. You clearly have an understanding or maybe a passion for math. Math was always my favorite subject growing up, so I can understand that. Is that where this comes from? You're just into developing apps. You really like statistics. Are you into gambling? Like lines and stuff like that. Like where does this passion or where does this even come from?
Yeah, I love stats.
Yeah.
Always have. I never, in high school, I didn't do computer stuff, or even college. I didn't study it, but I started doing it at work. And I was like, well, this is kind of an interesting thing. Like, let's try to see if we can make something. So that's kind of where the software development part, but I love stats. I look at them often. So that's where they combine.
Well, you're the second Goose that I know. Jared's uncle Goose and my brother-in-law. Yes. But question for you, go a little deeper. Where'd you go to high school, college? Give us a little background.
Yeah. So I grew up just outside of Grand Rapids in Lowell. Played football and wrestled there. Wow. I was a good enough wrestler to wrestle in college. I went to Harvard to wrestle there.
Oh, geez.
And then I graduated and came back to Grand Rapids where I currently live.
So were you a part of, I just saw they won their 10th straight state title, which is just insane. I couldn't believe it. I had to like double check. Like, did I read this right? Were you a part of that run?
I was. My senior class started the run. So
Damn.
we won in criteria is how wrestling matches are settled at tie. And we won in criteria against St. John's.
It's impressive, man.
Oh, another impressive program too.
Yeah.
We actually broke their streak. I think they were on 4 straight or something like that.
So you're on the west side. I mean, I'm sure you've seen games, maybe all across the state. I've always said, the west side, I think it's where the best sports come from. I mean, Lowell football games. I mean, the Pink Arrow game there every year, crazy environment. Do you think that that's the best kind of area for prep sports in the state is the west side?
Yeah, I think you get a combination of small or of like community based things where it's like very inward looking. So like if you compare it to like something like Metro Detroit, you're not quite sure where the town center is in a lot of those districts. Maybe the districts don't even have a town center. So like that's a key point, is having a town center. Yeah. Now to get to the size where you say, oh, it's really good, you actually need large districts too. So like I think the quintessential one is like Rockford, where it's a dedicated town center, but it's also like maybe the 5th largest school district in the state. And so if you go there, it's just like you can sense that it's very important. I went to the Rockford Mona Shores game last year, and it was a perfect summer, like basically end of summer night, and it must have been like 7,000 people there. It was just like very impressive. So
insane. Yeah, Jared and I both, after going to Grand Valley, worked at Fox 17 and covered high school football over there. And I've talked about it a number of times on this podcast, but I was blown away. I mean, we're all from Corunna and, mid-Michigan, a lot of traditional football. I was going to say powers, not necessarily powers, but a lot of tradition, I will say, in mid-Michigan. Yep. But when I went over to the west side and started covering high school football over there, East Grand Rapids, Rockford, Lowell, and a bunch of other ones, I was blown away. I was like, these stadiums are insane, and they're only getting better. So you played, and you said your dad coached and all that. Like, do you have a strong? I mean, obviously, I think the answer is yes. Do you have a strong passion for high school sports? Is that also where this comes from? Because the three of us love. I mean, Ted's been calling high school games for 40 years. Yeah. Jared's still covering it in Michigan. So we love high school sports.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just saying this to another guy. Like, I'm the type of guy who goes up and looks the brackets of like, I don't really watch baseball, but I'll go look at the baseball brackets to just see what schools have made it. Just genuine interest. So yeah, I love prep sports. I love the different schools from around the state. It's something that just interests me generally. So,
well, you kind of breeze through it, but I got to go back for a second. You're our first Harvard grad we've talked to. Now going from Lowell to Harvard, give us that whole process and how'd you like it out there in the Boston area?
So I loved it. It was a great experience. A lot different than West Michigan. Really, really just like great to see like a different world, different environment. The process was, I was like basically, so it's a D1 varsity sport at Harvard. So they've got to fill out a roster basically. And so they're looking for kind of kids who have that special blend of wrestling ability, but also fit a certain kind of academic profile.
Right.
And so I fit those both, and I knew I fit those both. So I wanted to go to an Ivy League or like a pretty high academic institution. And so I was, recruiting myself to these, I was sending out my profile, trying to talk to coaches, going to camps, that sort of thing. And so, I ended up forming a relationship with my coach, who's still coaching there, Coach Jay Weiss. And, it just made sense for both parties. And that's kind of how it happened.
Was one final question on that? Was it like you see on TV? I mean, you're sitting in front of your computer and all of a sudden it comes in, you're accepted. Yes, I'm in. I mean, how did that go when you heard?
I was very excited to hear. For athletes, it's a little less, it's a little anticlimactic. For normal students, it is exactly like that as far as I understand. But for athletes, you kind of have advance notice because, like I said, you've got to slot into things, or the coach has to develop a roster, so they give you slots. And so if you fit a certain academic profile, certain wrestling profile, and the coach says, yes, this is the athlete I want, you're basically, and you pass like an interview, you're basically guaranteed admission. So it's not, basically the bar is the coach saying, hey, I want you on my team.
One more question from us on kind of your backstory. I guess I gotta ask this because I've always been so impressed, and I think we all have, with the Lowell football program, especially when you went through the golden years. What was it like to play under Noel Dean, legendary coach Noel Dean?
Yeah, so my dad, that's my dad.
We
should
should have known that.
The wrestling thing, I looked up Gabe Dean, which is obviously your brother, and I was like, it doesn't look like him, but
he's my cousin. He's my cousin.
Yeah, cousin. Okay.
Talk about burying the league. I mean,
no kidding.
What was it like playing for somebody who's obviously a very good coach, but also your dad like that? What was that relationship like?
So it's, my dad's one of my best friends. I just like, we have an amazing relationship. It was like really amazing to like grow up with someone who's like not only building something, but been successful building something, and in a community that really cares about that. Like, that's really inspirational. Like, it's a positive role model to have in your life. I would say probably the downside of it is like, you mixing those things when you're an athlete in high school, like that. I think it really wasn't that big of a deal for me because it was my first time going through it. But like, it was probably my dad's 20th season at that point. And I don't think he was probably as well prepared for, this is how you coach your sons, learning how to coach your sons. Right. So, and I think probably every coach who's coached his children would say that, but, that was probably the downside, right? So I wouldn't say I had like a normal high school football or a high school wrestling experience because I was always being coached by my uncle or my dad, that sort of thing. So,
I mean, it's just going to be different. I mean, it's just the way it is. I like watching, just for example, Michigan with Juwan Howard, 2 of his sons on his team. You can tell he coaches them like everyone else, but it's going to be different. They're his sons. Like, there's going to be a little bit of a difference. Jared's dad was my basketball coach at Corona. Jared, did you ever play for your dad, Jared? I've actually never asked you. In youth,
but not anything past youth.
Okay. So yeah, it's just always going to be different, but man, that's cool. I mean, your dad, would you put him up there? Is he the best high school football coach in the state of Michigan, or where would you put him in the tier?
Well, so I'm very biased. So like metric wise, I don't think he's, I think he's up there, but I don't think he's near the top. Guys like Harrington. I'm missing some.
Francesa.
Francesa. So, he's probably up there.
He's up there.
Yeah.
So we got to ask. So I don't know if you can, looking ahead, Tuesday, you've got your big, you call it your playoff predictor?
I'm calling it playoff preview guide.
Preview guide.
I have one for football that's been pretty well received. I've done 2 now. This will be my first basketball one, so I'm putting my neck out there. We'll see.
So give us what you can. I know I don't want you to blow everything. You want everyone to check it out on Tuesday, but what can you give us looking ahead to high school hoops playoffs coming up?
Yeah, so basically, what we can do, what we're going to show there is we're going to, we're going to show the computer model's prediction for every district, which I think will be quite interesting. And I'll probably release an expected bracket. So if the favorites win in every game, here's the full bracket. I'm not sure how I'm going to show that graphically quite yet, because as you guys know, a 256 team bracket is quite difficult visually. So that'll be that, but also some more in-depth analysis. So I've tweeted out a sneak preview, which is what you're alluding to, of like, hey, here are the deepest districts. So, one of the things the computer model can spit out is like, okay, well, here's where the highest rated teams are, or the district with the highest average rating of teams. So I've already released that, but I want to go a little deeper and maybe do the top 4 districts or that sort of thing, and also show the weakest ones. I don't like to publicize those because I'm not out to like disparage teams, but I think in like a newsletter format, it's a little more interesting and palatable. And there'll just be other snippets like that. Things like who got screwed the most in their first round matchup,
right?
Which is I've already released that on Twitter, but my opinion, it would be actually a game that's going to be very looked over, but it's in D4. Allen Park Intercity Baptist is our number 15 D4 team, and their first round, they've had a very good season. They're 12-8. They had a couple close losses to Plymouth Christian, pretty highly regarded D3 team, and their reward for that is to play Detroit Douglas first round. So the number 5 team in D4.
Good luck.
According to our ratings. So I think they got screwed the most. But
I'll tell you what, this is our time of the year, getting ready for March. It's going to be a blast. Final question for you. Maybe the boys have another question, but what are you doing right now for a living? I take it this is a sideline, and maybe you hope to grow it to maybe come something big enough to live on. But what are you doing right now to make your cash?
Yeah, so I'm an accountant. I was working full time. Now I'm working kind of half time. I've been doing this. What we're more excited about, which I haven't really talked about a lot. I've hinted at it on my newsletter as a new piece of software we're releasing. It's for coaches. So yeah, that'll be coming out here. I mean, we're in beta testing right now, but so we've been working with a few coaches, but that'll be going live here in the next month, basically. So we're very excited about that. It's a long answer to your question of it was just a side project. Now it's halftime. Hopefully it'll be full time.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
I mean, I think you have a great idea. I know a Substack, great website to put it on. With donations or whatever it is. I mean, it's such a good site. I think a lot of people would feel the need to do that. And I think it's a great idea. I mean, you already have 5,000 Twitter followers. Who knows how many more you're going to grow the more and more stuff you come out. I mean, it's all good stuff. I have one more question for you before we let you go. And I know you teased it. I don't think so. I don't want you to give away everything about this, but something that I found really interesting that you were looking into. You were looking into the relationship between out of district enrollments and high school football wins.
Yep.
Have you found a big correlation between that, or is that something you want to save for later?
I haven't finished the analysis yet. Just been too focused on basketball,
right.
But that will be coming out this spring, and I'm very excited to see the results. So
yeah,
one of the things that we'll be building on is, and we may mix the two. I don't know if you guys saw it last year. I probably need to refresh it because of my audience has a lot of new followers. Right. Is the relationship between high level or ranked recruits and wins in Division One MHSAA football.
Yeah.
So we scraped 247 Sports' data for just Michigan over the last 9 years, and we fit it to the average wins per season in D1 for D1 teams, and basically found a pretty strong relationship. Basically saying that if you don't have at least one ranked recruit, you will not exceed 6 wins a year, basically over that time period. So that's a summary, but it'll kind of build on that sort of thing. We may mix the two. So
I can't wait to see it. Do you mind telling our listeners kind of the best place to follow you and how to kind of subscribe to your newsletter and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram and Twitter, both as Goosepoop, @Goosepoop, and then _. Instagram might be a double _. You'll see in both bios a link to our newsletter to subscribe, and then you check out our website. It's really it's just for football right now. You can use the playoff wizard, which we talked about. That's goosepoop.io. We will be revamping our website here over the next few months to get ready for football season. So that'll be much more fun to play around on.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time. And like we said, I mean, we all are big fans of your site. So we just hope that you keep kind of putting out the content you are. So thanks
Keep
for your
rolling.
time.
Hey, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Nice meeting all of you.